indulgence. Permit me to do pros today. After my session, I may then forward that to TA for onward transmission to all participants. And of course, also before I go too far, I also want to crave your indulgence, TA, that after my session, you allow me to log off. I have another class that I must not go late to. In that particular class, in the next 90 minutes, I happen to be the youngest person in that class, and I will be facilitating. So I must not go late to that class. So please just bear with me. So let's go, ladies and gentlemen. In a very few minutes, let's just share. Today, the topic of my keynote address is inclusive leadership for effective nation building. Mr. Temitope Aloba, the convener of this distinguished platform, other esteemed guest speakers for this evening, and having said that, please permit me to specially recognize two of my professional colleagues who are also guest speakers today. They are great supporters of the strides we are making at our great institute, the CIPM. First is my friend and sister and a brand new permanent secretary in the flagship public service of the Federation, the Lagos State Public Service, Princess Olubusola Ajibola Abidakun, MCIPM, the Permanent Secretary, Teaching Service Commission. Second is the man I call St. Michael, Mr. Emmanuel Michael, MCIPM. Professional colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, happy 62nd independence anniversary of our great nation. We bless God for the gift of life. In 2021, we were all here. Even at a point, we were not sure the way COVID-19 was going. Here we are today celebrating another milestone of the October guest speaker event of HR with Temitope Aloba. Nigeria, let us celebrate. Let me humbly pay my homage to this platform for bringing me back. I do not see it as a right. Thank you so much. The theme for this edition, Human Capital Development for Nation Building, is apt. And I am positive the guest speakers will do justice to the topic for the benefit of all. Experts maintain that leadership is fundamental to anything the citizens will ever achieve as a nation. There is this saying that everything rises and falls with leadership. Personally, I see the role of leaders in helping to drive the agenda of government at the federal and state levels as very critical. I see it as an opportunity for us to rethink our role as HR leaders, as a role for developing the people that will grow and nurture the assets of the nation. We have a prime responsibility centered on nation building. Build the people, and you would have built the nation. Therefore, as human capital professionals, we must expand our minds into not just the business, but also the nation and what is critical for Nigeria to continue to grow. Suffice it for me now to just chip in a few words on the theme before zeroing in on my topic. We have had human capital development with us like forever. We have been doing training and development at all levels and spheres since I was born and even before then. Why are we not seeing the corresponding human and national effectiveness. When I speak of effectiveness, ladies and gentlemen, I mean principled results, value addition, and a principled lifestyle in human behaviors and national growth. I suspect there is a missing link. By my exposure to Kirkpatrick's 4 levels of learning and development effectiveness of reaction, learning, behavior or impact, and results, I dare say most of our human capital development initiatives ended at the level of learning, just at level 2. Hence, nation building has become an albatross so far. In summary, ladies and gentlemen, I am glad to announce that the crusade started a few years back in the organized private sector, which is that human capital development initiatives must show the value such activities bring to bottom line profitability and top line growth. The task is to take this to the public sector across Nigeria. Lagos is not doing badly. It is, however, a drop in the ocean. For human capital development to result in business growth and nation building and development, we need to start with the end in mind. Let us invert the pyramid and start from level 4. To get the result we are looking for, we must start with level 4. And let me go back to the levels. Level 1 is reaction, and we're all familiar with it. You finish a training, human capital development initiative, and then you give appraisal sheets to people. Some of us, we call it happy sheet. And people just give you 100%, 80%, and that is the end of the news. And I'm sure people were happy at the end of the training, maybe because of the coffee, because of the quality of food you have given to them. But what happens after that? We have discovered that people just after that, they go and rest and they don't apply the training. Reaction, that is it. Then the level 2 is learning. In some cases, some organizations will test participants and they score them 80%, 100%, and so on. And that is it. We will not be taking our evaluation to the level of behavior or impact and eventually to results. And like I said, I know that some years back, even from my days in the early 2000s in telecoms, we started applying the Kirkpatrick 4 level. And to make it sweet, you invert the pyramid. Start with level 4. And that is what I am talking about. And that is what I am bringing to the table. Let us invert the pyramid and start from level 4. What result are we aiming for by this initiative, by this program? What results are we aiming for? What performance are we expecting to see when we are back at work, when we are back in the society? We should set this in clear terms, even before we embark on the program. Ladies and gentlemen, level 3 is to set the agenda for the behavior standard expected, and so on and so forth. That was supposed to be a short comment on the film. So now let me go to my business of the day. Let me come quickly to leadership, to include leadership for nation building. And I want to quickly acknowledge that the materials for this short speech, have been sourced from all and sundry I want to say thank you to the team at the HQ of the CIPM who have assisted me in doing this. I want to also say thank you to the team at Bezali Consulting. So it's a combination of this that's what I'm presenting to you. So thank you again, Mr. Convener, for involving me in this. I have spent most part of my leadership years practicing this all-encompassing leadership approach. It is not really a compartmentalized leadership style. No, inclusive leadership is not compartmentalized. Inclusive leadership is an approach that may be adopted by any leader, whichever leadership style is dominant. Inclusive leaders are individuals who are self-aware. They are conscious of their own biases. So in other words, we are not looking for saints. We are not looking for angels. If you're looking for saints and angels, even as we have the 2023 elections approaching, then you better go to heaven and bring those candidates. So we are not looking for, saints and angels. What inclusive leaders do best is that they are self-aware. They are self-aware. They are conscious of their own biases and actively seek out and consider different perspectives to inform their actions, their steps, their decision-making prowess, and they collaborate more effectively with others. An inclusive leader knows that none of us is as smart as all of us. She harnesses the energy in the room for mission accomplishment. He leads by example and acts thoughtfully in actions to influence others to do good, to influence others for positive action. Well, on influence, some say leadership is not influence. Ladies and gentlemen, but if a leader can't influence the followership to do good, sorry, let that leader look back. Such a leader is just taking a walk. An inclusive leader prioritizes equality and equity in the organization's goals and vision, implementing inclusive hiring practices and helping employees reach their full potential. Let me sound a note of warning that inclusiveness, diversity, equity is not at the expense of competence. We are not saying, in fact, it must not be reduced to the shenanigans of religion and ethnicity, or else we will be doing greater harm than our forefathers have done with the quota system. So I thought we should lay that marker before I move on. As a professional institute, the CIPM is intentional about inclusiveness in our hiring and leadership succession. The Governing Council has taken a decision to hire people with special abilities. Of recent, we have increased exponentially the number of women leading our branches and committees. Hence, the percentage of women representation on the Governing Council has increased. And these are quality. We did not lower our standard in any way. The challenges were thrown open, and I can tell you there are qualified people all over the country. One thing that gladdens my heart is, can you imagine our branches in the north are being headed, a few of them right in the corner are being headed by women of substance. And these are things that gladdens my heart. The leadership of our great institute is a leadership made up of 5 people. And I can tell you, we have 2 very experienced and professionally astute women in that leadership team. Inclusive leaders shares some signature traits, ladies and gentlemen. One of them is commitment. They articulate an authentic commitment to diversity. And now I also want to say here that as I was planning to become the president of the Institute, we ran on the basis of something we call the Midas agenda. And the I in that Midas is inclusiveness. So if you see me passionately, working at that, it is just that a promise is a promise and it must be kept. As you know, integrity is doing what you say you will do. Secondly, change agents. That is what includes, some of the, one of the signature traits of inclusive leaders. Change agent, they challenge the status quo. This is the way we have been doing it, so shall it be forevermore. No, inclusive leaders, they look into what is behind it and they are ready to challenge the status quo. Thirdly, responsibility and accountability. They are accountable as well as they are bold enough to hold others also accountable. Inclusive leaders are not nice managers. And lastly, okay, let me just go on. Personal touch. Inclusive leaders, they make diversity and inclusion a personal priority. Courage. It was Nelson Mandela who said, courage is not the absence of fear. So courage is finding, the grace to be confronted with a challenge and you face it on. Cognizance of biases, they know themselves. They know that, yes, they too are human and they have biases. They are curious, culturally intelligent. Inclusive leaders are culturally intelligent. They believe in what we call best practices. However, they go for best fit. When those things are brought into, they localize it, they see how it is fitting into their organizations. It's not hook, line, and sinker. And lastly, inclusive leaders collaborate. Inclusivity in leadership is a matter of the heart, ladies and gentlemen. A few inclusive leadership mindsets or principles that shape behaviors will suffice here and now. These mindsets, which are akin to emotional intelligence skills, are critical for leaders' ability to create an environment where all employees feel respected, valued, and able to contribute their best to work. They include self-awareness, I've mentioned that earlier on, curiosity, courage, vulnerability. I am not asking anybody on this call to become James Bond. Vulnerability is the ability to say, look, everybody, no, I don't know this. Can somebody tell me? Oh, you are up front. That's what vulnerability is all about. And of course, empathy, putting yourself in other people's shoes. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I would like to use this medium to inform you about our 54th International Conference and Exhibition, the CIPM's EYES 2022, themed Leading People, Growing Nations. That is coming up in Port Harcourt at the Obi Wali International Conference Center from October 17 to 21. As we gather in the Garden City, I look forward to seeing you there. If you have not registered, please go straight on to cipmnigeria.org/conference. It was Heraclitus, the Greek philosopher, who said, and I quote, "Change is the only constant in life. I urge you all to keep evolving by learning. We cannot keep doing the same thing and expect different results. We must look inward and see ways we can be better at what we do in order to get to our desired destination as individuals and as a nation." Thank you for inviting me, and I wish you a fruitful event. Once again, happy Independence, Nigeria. God bless you all. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
People transformation in Nigeria or as a nation. I I try to put on first and foremost my hat and my cap of, one, logical thinking. How do we run through the process? How do we take people from this point to that point? And I also try to, look inwards into organizations that we have provided support for in that area where I have gathered experience as well in the course of my own journey as a people transformation consultant. And one of the key things that stood out for me is the fact that, so I'm just going to talk through, I'm not going to dwell, is the fact that quality is important in everything that we do. And I looked at, okay, so how do we ensure, how have we been able to successfully actually deliver transformation assignments, right? So we've done organizational transformation, we've done HR or people transformation projects in the course of my work at PCL, and I looked at, so how have we been able to succeed? And it's been leadership. Where there's no leadership buy-in, it's usually a difficult, drive or walk or run or flight, whichever terminology you want to use. So having leadership buy-in, leadership driving makes a lot of difference. And looking at the nation Nigeria, the only way we can move from the point where we are in to the desired future, whatever that future may be, is from the leadership. Leadership starts with you and I anyway. It's not about, I'm not talking about the Senate, I'm not talking about the presidency, I'm not talking about the governors alone. I mean leadership as for who we are in our spaces, everywhere we find ourselves, everywhere we play, every sphere of influence that we have. We must be ready to transform and bring transformation into play in everything that we do. Now, looking at the business case for transformation, it's very straightforward. Now, I take again my experience from the business environment and I, kind of transpose that into the nation. It's very, very clear, and we all in this profession understand it. When we say VUCA, there's no overflogging it. It's the reality, So that means for the business, we find that there is need consistently for us to be creative. Creativity is key. We have examples of businesses that I will not name. I was with a client a few days ago. As a matter of fact, I think not a client really, but an awardee of the association. And we looked at a frame. And a few of us could talk about that frame way back in the 80s, 90s, and then there are other businesses that have come along, and that particular person who was the key innovator in that time and age, is not a player anymore. One, because there wasn't innovation, and two, there wasn't creativity. So as a people, as a business, as a nation, we must ensure that because of the VUCA environment that we are in right now, we are creative in what we do. Simple example, even in the home, you give children the same food every day. They'll tell you, I'm not hungry, I don't want that, I want this. They want change as well. So the same thing a nation requires. How are we changing? You pass through a road all the time and you can tell people, say yes, I know, when you get to that bumpy side has been that bumpy side for more than 10 years. So there's no change. We need to be creative. How can we solve this problem, of infrastructure in a creative way? How can we innovate? How can we do things differently? And then the reality, how are we adapting to the change? We can't be left behind. Any business that is left behind is a business that is headed for extinction. So we cannot be left behind. And so also as a nation, we should not be left behind. If you look at the reality of what we're seeing, I'll get to that point, forward more in the slides. You'll find that a lot of people, are not ready and willing because they're not seeing, leadership buy-in or commitment for change. So everybody is just saying, you know what, let me take my bag, let me take a walk, let me take a run, let me take a flight and all that. So nobody's adapting. So we must be ready. That's the implication for the business of a nation. How about for people? Because it's all about people transformation, isn't it? When we're transforming a business, we're transforming a department, or we're transforming the nation. At the end of the day, the executors of that transformation is the people. The implementers at the end of the day is the people. And that's where we are key. And I looked at the concept that we have and I brought some things together. I said, you know what, how I can summarize what works and what has helped transformations to be successful is to have more of me. More of me. It starts from me. It starts from me all the time. One, mindset for change. We must have a mindset that, you know what, change is inevitable. We must evolve with changing business objectives, changing national objectives. And I emphasize national objectives because we find that, I mean, we had arguments. I had a program pre-COVID and we ended it last year. Strategy and business, diplomacy and strategic studies. And most of the arguments and discussions we had was, okay, what is our national interest? What is Nigeria's national interest? Because that's where the commitment comes from. So what is our national objective in Nigeria? What are we committed towards? What is a common thing? When we ask, and it's been a joke, but it's a bad joke. When people say that what brings us together, I hear it said in Abuja, I heard it said in the East, I hear it said here in the South. What brings us together that we have in common is corruption. It's bad. How about national focus? How about a common vision? How about where we're driving towards? What is that objective and goal that keeps us together? So those are the implications that we must have as a people that would now enable us, begin to move towards that journey of transformation. Now, there's always another opportunity coming for us. So business opportunity, national opportunity, everything about us coming together as a nation. And that's why the national flag is there embedded in that design. There's always another opportunity for us. So we can't say that, oh, you know what, things are so bad right now. This is happening right now, even for a business. There are lots of brands I wouldn't mention that we all know that we've used as case studies that didn't catch or get on the bus. For some, you have the opportunity to get on the next one. And I think for Nigeria, this is that opportunity right now. How can we take advantage of the current opportunity for us to move onto a journey of transformation? Transformation is simply a case of, moving from here to there, from point A to point B. But we must have a definition and understanding of where it is we are going. So the future state is always critical for me. In any project that I carry out, I always I do vision boards for most of my assignments. And I say, you know what, this is where they're going because I must be in alignment all the time. So what is the future state for this country as a nation? What is the future state for us as a people? What is the desired state? What do we have in mind? What do we want to achieve? One, talent retention. People wanted retention in this country. Right now, I think I was discussing with some people a few days, and it was clear that you are able to place people in roles, and within 2 months, 3 months, they're gone. They're resigning, they're moving for one thing or the other, or they just say, I want to stay at home, I want to do some things. Because they're not seeing the satisfaction that they want. The fulfillment is not there anymore. So what do we want for our people? What do we want for our nation? When we have that defined and clear as a people, we can now do an assessment of, okay, you know what, in reality, like we all know, where are we? And this is diagnostics really. Where are we? Right now, what do we have? What are the issues facing us? And they are so numerous. We have political, I'm going to be on a session after this by 7 in AFTIA, and we're looking at Nigeria, the learning journey. What have we learned? What should we learn? And what can we do with what we're learning? So as a nation, what is it that we have? Where are we? What should we be doing? What is the reality compared to the future state for us? And then critical, what brings it all together, which is where, if I had the opportunity, I'd love to work with any state government or federal government, to be honest, and make sure we understand that defining the future state and knowing the current state is not the problem. The problem, as in strategy that we know, the problem is always in execution. And that's the transition journey. Transformation is important, but the transition itself really is where the work lies. And that's where I also like to place emphasis. So I say that the key focus of transformation is actually the transition. That's the transition, the journey, yes, the process, the everyday learning, the rising and falling, the mistakes, the quarrels. You know how it is, in team development, whereby you have people, coming together, people storming, normalizing and then beginning to function. That's the reality. When we want to go somewhere, we will have those issues. We will hit our heads. We will butt ourselves into a corner. We will box ourselves into places, but the truth is it's part of the journey. And once we can go through it, we're there to where we're going. Execution, adjustments, learning, being agile generally, so that we can journey towards that future state. And I'm going to take us through how I believe we can lead, because that's what my topic focuses on: leading people transformation as a nation or in Nigeria. To be honest, a lot of businesses, once you exit a project, most of the time, they are not able to continue on that journey of transformation. So one of the things, before I left Phillips Consulting, one of the things that we started to do was to ensure that we could, one, propose to the businesses to say, you know what, we won't just hand off this business or this assignment. We want to be in the execution, because it is important for us to see the outcome and the results, that you yourself had set out to achieve. So this is the process at the end of the day for us to lead transformation. And this is my own coinage. I say it's the 4 C's, and it starts with communication. Now, most of the time you find that, so for instance, in Nigeria, if you want to carry out anything, you now go and call communication company, or maybe call somebody from abroad to come and tell your story. Nobody can tell it better than you. So we should be the ones to tell our story. So let us communicate what we want to achieve very clearly to everyone. Let us say it in our various languages. In the office, let us say it the way people can understand. Let's bring it down to every level. Somebody said to me sometime ago and say, you know what, Dr. Esther, one of the reasons why I always call you, of all people in Phillips Consulting, is because you can relate from the top to the bottom. And that's because maybe because of my childhood, but I'm also very conscious of the fact that, the only way I can get what I want from every level at different levels is to speak their language. So what is our story? Who can tell it but us? Does it align? So when people are telling stories, or, when you call it, sometimes when you call people in to come and help you do transformation work, the kind of things they'll be using will not be in alignment. So I believe that we, as the insiders, must work with whoever is coming to help us to do the transformation, whether you are a client here, whether you are a leader here, whether you are a consultant here, you're doing it for business or for your organization, or you are doing it at state capacity. The thing is, we must ensure that whatever we are communicating aligns with the desired future. And that's why some people will say, don't say what you're saying, say what you want to see. So begin to declare what you want to see so that people can begin to fall into line. So I say that don't let your communication derail people from the path. The next one is culture, very critical, very important. Some people can smell Nigerians from a mile away, And so we need to look at ourselves and say, what behaviors do we want to continue to see? What do we want for the future? Once we have decided where we're going, the desired state, we need to look at what behaviors we want to see. Most Nigerians will tell you, those that fly, regularly out of the country and in, there's this kind of decorum and behavior when you're outside the country, but somehow, the moment you come into the airport in Nigeria, once the heat hits you, once the escalators are not working, once you're on the queue, something flips. And that's local Nigerian behavior. I don't want to say local, but our behavior, us pushing, and all that begins to come in. But that's not what we want. Can we define what we want to see? Now, I say that we can co-create that. It doesn't mean we're going to start, arresting and beating people or locking people up. We can allow people to maintain how they are behaving, but let's define and let people see where we want to go. And once we can all, as a nation, co-create that, there will be buy-in, of course, because there's involvement and commitments. So that's it with culture. Now we move into capabilities. To be honest, as a nation, our capability levels differ from region to region. So what capabilities are available to take us to where we're going, just as we would have in an organization. Do we have the skills that we need? Do we have the kind of people, positioning that we need? The technologies, do we have them? Do we have the mindsets to get there? Do we have market knowledge? Do we have understanding of global trends? Are we there? So this has to be understood as well. And then finally, we need to ensure we are measuring, we are checking, we are ensuring that we're making sure we are on course. We have tangible outcomes defined. It's not a question of, you know what, we'll get there, we get it. No. We don't have eternity to do that. We have to play our part and hand the baton over to the next set of people that are leading. So what are the tangible outcomes? How can we check where we are performing, where we're not? How can we check where we're lagging behind? How can we put in things to help us adjust? How can we retain our people? Because people retention is one of that, succession planning and all that. And staff retention is key to businesses. It is critical to an organization as well. I was telling some, in a talk that I had, I was saying, you know what, all the scholarship that they are given to Nigeria, most of the people that go on scholarship don't come back. It's a brain drain strategy. So how can we ensure that we can have our people come back and develop the nation and build our country? They take that brain out and they begin to use it for the people that gave them that scholarship. Meanwhile, in the 60s, it wasn't that way. You travel out, you come back, you come use the knowledge that you've gained. You become someone and you're leading where you are. So one-time retention, we must define it, check productivity level of the people, and then of course, efficiency is also critical. Now, the question I'm going to leave us with, and I think I want to believe that we'll be touching on all those things as well. What's the next thing for us as a nation? What are we doing? What are we articulating? One of the things I would love to see is at this meeting, if you can articulate and say 1, 2, 3, at this meeting, where the things we discussed and we believe would move Nigeria forward in terms of nation building. With that, I say thank you. Thank you very much for listening. I hope I've not exceeded the time that I was given.